at that age, like you're at a point where you just want people to love you and you want people to like you, and you'll do anything to, at least I did anything to try to fit in. And so the pressure that got to me, it made me feel like I had to keep up this expectation for people. Like,
today's video is brought to you by CDA Roofing. Have you ever tried to fix your roof? Well, my wife and I have. The saying it takes an expert is not an understatement. CDA Roofing is licensed and insured. They have combined business experience of 60 plus years and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. CDA Roofing has successfully waterproofed residential and commercial buildings spanning Maine to Florida. Whether it's re-roofing, metal, asphalt, rubber, flat waterproofing, or asphalt shingle repair, CDA Roofing has you covered. By the way, CDA Roofing can also handle all of your siding, gutters, windows, doors, decks, and general repair needs. CDA Roofing is an industry leader operating throughout New England. They have locations in Agawam, Massachusetts, and Simsbury, Connecticut. Their phone number is 413-786-4081. All around, the company is managed by experienced professionals, and they care deeply about your property. Give them a call today for a free estimate. Welcome back to My Prep Plus. My name is Giuliano. Today we have a special guest. We have Vanessa Shirella. Welcome.
thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Hi, guys.
Same here. So again, My Prep Plus is very simple. So what we do is we connect people and professionals from all walks of life, so that way we can share ideas and create new beginnings.
Yeah.
And we've had an opportunity to do this in a couple different parts of the country. And what hits home for us most is being back here, East Hopmeadow.
Yeah.
This is consider our roots, really Springfield, East Hopmeadow for us. Mm-hmm. And the series is actually called Roots. So that'll give us some food for thought.
Love that.
The way the conversation kind of works is we start with where you came from, where you're at today, and where you see yourself in the going in the future. Mm-hmm. So very quickly, Vanessa grew up in Western Massachusetts, born in Springfield, raised in Hamden, went to school in Wilbraham, Minnetonka High School, eventually went to Western New England College,
Yep.
graduated with a marketing degree, currently works at a salon, one more time.
Bar Beauty.
Yep, Longmeadow. She's very active on social media, and she's very active with her faith, including God and Jesus, in influencing younger crowd.
Yeah.
And trying to get them to see the fulfillment Jesus has done in your life.
Yes.
So that way they may be inspired to do something great with their lives.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. That's definitely what I feel I'm called to do. And I was saying to you, a little bit off camera, how if you were to ask someone when I was, back then, if this is what I would be doing, I would be like, you're crazy, I just never really envisioned it for myself, but I just feel like it's, I explain it like it saved my life and it's given me so much hope and encouragement. Like, how could I not share and talk about it and then throw it into my life? It's just such a huge part of my life. So, and I love people. So I think it's awesome to have faith. I think we all need it, especially in today's world and everything that's going on. So, yeah, I think it's awesome to have faith,
I love it. So what we really want to start with is exactly where you came from. So growing up, you have your mother and father, you have your younger sister, 2 years younger.
Yes, yeah.
So
Giuliano. Almost like Giuliano.
That's great.
I know, I'm like, I first saw you, I'm like, oh, you're Italian. Well, obviously I know your mom, but I'm like, we all could be like brothers and sisters, from the South End. My mom, we all grew up the same, so it's very similar. But yeah, I have a younger sister. So it's just me and her. I'm the oldest sister, and my mom and dad, we're a huge Italian family, my mom's one of 6, my dad's one of 3, so we're, and then they all have kids, and so it's just, the holidays are insane, and my house is extremely chaotic. Like, every time somebody would come over, they left my house smelling like chicken parm or something. They're like, we want to come to your house because it's, like, there's food.
I love it.
It's funny, yeah. So, love my family so much. They mean everything to me. I'm very close to them. I still have my grandparents, so I always incorporate them into my social media and my life because I think it's, so important. And my nanny. One thing I wished I learned Italian. I'm like, why don't I know how to speak it? It's my fault. I blame it on my mom. I'm like, why didn't you speak it to me when I was young? But she said it's something I could learn now. So I suppose that. Do you speak?
I am broken Italian.
Broken. Yeah, I'm like, I can understand it, but I went to Italy and I didn't know what anyone was saying. so I gotta learn it. But yeah, I love my family so much. They mean everything to me. And yeah, we also, we all speak about faith here and there, but I feel like I'm kind of the one who found that on my own journey, but we can get into that maybe a little bit.
So I definitely want to talk through kind of, I think what's really inspiring is I've had the opportunity to kind of go through some of your social media platforms, and your ability to inspire the younger generation, which is very powerful for us. We're searching for authenticity and just real America.
Yeah.
And someone like yourself having the ability to touch people's lives through your experiences, by sharing your experiences. So offline, we were talking through how you eventually, you grew up in Western Mass, you eventually made it into your high school years, fairly big soccer player.
Yeah.
And you were sort of, and please forgive me if I'm saying this incorrectly, but you were sort of the popular one at the time, right?
Yeah.
So if you maybe elaborate there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So yeah, my family, because we're Italian, and I think it just goes hand in hand, soccer was the first sport that my mom, dad threw us in, and it happened to stick with me. So they noticed that I had a skill for it at a very young age, and I just remember, I remember loving it. It came natural. I was 3 years old with the soccer ball at my feet, and I did love it. So it came very natural. It was so fun. Then there started to come a point where, you play as a kid and you get older, excuse me, and then they're like, do you want to do this full time? Is this something you feel like you'd want to play in school? And so if you were to ask me when I was a kid if I wanted to play soccer as a, professional, that was kind of like the dream. Like, what do you want to do when you're older? I was like, I want to be a professional soccer player. I want to play in the women's team, and I want to go to school, play D1 soccer. And I also had older cousins who I was really inspired by. They all played soccer, so kind of just felt like I was left out if I didn't at that point. So I was, So I ended up playing for FSA ECNL, which was out in Farmington. Now I'm from Massachusetts, so to me that was like definitely a little foreign. I played in high school, but they were like, if you want to really try to go to college, we have to, invest in you to go play Premier. And for my family, that was a huge investment because, my parents were too, and still are, like just hard workers, local. My mom's a hairdresser. My dad was in painting, construction, has his own business. So, I've always seen hard work at its finest, and money was tight, and so they sacrificed, and I saw that, and I always wanted to make them proud, and try to prove to them that I could make it, and I just think at a young age I put this pressure on myself that I had to perform because I was so loving, in the sense, like I was like, well, I want to play D1 because I love it, but I also don't want my parents to break the bank and paying for loans. Like I just I did think of that. So I started playing Premier, and I just realized quickly that it was something I loved. So time was going on, and then I ended up playing for a team that helped me get scouted by, it was a college out in Boston, and I was verbally committed, but then I was 16, and I ended up at the prime time of when you're supposed to be getting scouted, right? Yeah. I tear my ACL. And to me, that was so foreign. I was like, are you kidding me? I never was a kid who really got injured. I'd never broke bones or anything. So I was like, what is going, this sucks. Like I didn't realize it was like a 6 month, not years, that would be awful, but 6 months to a year of a setback. So I'm like, great. Like now my whole life is ruined. Like, I'm this young. I'm like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. My dream is, how am I going to, get to this? And so anyways, I end up tearing my ACL. I have to decommit essentially because they're saying to me that if I commit, I won't play for the first 3 years. And we had to make that decision, and it was very hard for me. So that's when I started to notice pressure come on to me of making these weighty decisions, as anyone who's 16 or 15 or 18 has to make. Yeah. And my parents were like, we support you, full-heartedly, whatever you do. You're not disappointing us. And so I ended up deciding to walk on to Western New England, which to me was so nerve-wracking walking on because you don't know the coach. You don't know if you even have an in. So I walk on to the school, and I make the team. And at this point, too, I guess I can backtrack a little bit. I'm in high school. I'm playing for, the high school team. I'm one of the popular kids. I noticed very quickly, I feel like I should definitely preface this, like, When I was in school, I had a slight learning disability. I was always diagnosed with ADHD or a bit of a processing. They diagnosed me as disorder, which doesn't hinder me anymore. But back in the day when school was obviously taking part in my life, it did hinder me. Like there were certain classes that I really didn't retain the information that well. I needed extra time. I had to stay after. And it was super debilitating because I was amongst peers, and the people pleasing and the pressure and just the pressure I put on myself was, as anyone would relate, it was a lot. I cared so much about what my peers thought. And I was walking in as a freshman, and I really...
Freshman of college
I'm freshman of high school, actually.
Okay.
I should preface this because it goes in hand of like everything. And I just wanted to be loved so bad and liked so bad by people. And I just remember doing things that maybe were out of my character, in the sense of like, you know, I put this pressure on myself every day to perform. Like I had to do my makeup every single day, and my hair had to be literally perfect. I mean, I drove my mom nuts. She's a hairdresser. Literally woke up every day and I was like, can you blow my hair out? And, you know, God bless her soul, she did. But I drove her nuts, like, just because of this pressure. And I started to notice that it worked for me. Like I was getting the attention. I was being called, you're beautiful, you're pretty, like, who's that girl? Like, we want to date that, whatever. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm the popular girl in school. I'm a starter on the soccer team. I made it as a freshman. The only thing that I had a ton of friends. The only thing that would really set me back was my grades. Like my grades were always average and maybe even below average because I struggled so deeply in these classes. And it bothered me so bad. I was like, oh, if I was only just like a straight A student, if it only came natural to me, my friends wouldn't think I'm dumb, or wouldn't say I'm dumb, or I wouldn't think I'm dumb. And I just remember like being pulled out of classes, and it was so embarrassing to me. And I just think that shaped so much of my life now because, at that age, like you're at a point where you just want people to love you and you want people to like you, and you'll do anything at least I did anything to try to fit in. And so the pressure that got to me, it made me feel like I had to keep up this expectation for people. Like it wasn't so much now people, but it was my own expectation of myself. Like I was being called beautiful, so what would happen if I showed up on a day and they didn't think I was beautiful? Well, then I would feel less than. And so this kind of kept going on. So for me, I was just always trying to compete, like with myself, with others in a sense. I noticed this like natural, that comes with being a soccer player, but it was really hard. I think being, someone who is super hard on yourself, like I think people don't really recognize, or they don't know you face to face, but the thoughts that would go through my head, like you're not good enough, like you're not pretty enough, you're not able enough, you're not strong enough. Like these were things, instead of encouraging, became like the voice in my head just became so negative. It was a really hard place to live, and I didn't realize it because I was so young. So I just remember from that point on, walking onto college, and I'm like, well, I have to, because I relied so heavily on my athletic abilities. I was so mad that I tore my ACL because now my identity was in my athletic abilities. It wasn't in the fact that I was, quote unquote smart. I was smart all along. I just learned differently, And so when I tore my ACL and I couldn't go D1, to me that was embarrassing for I don't know who, like it's really not, but for me. So I end up making the team at Western New England.
You had to turn down the first D1 option, which was at UMass Lowell.
Yeah. That was the hardest thing, I think, for me at that age, because it's just a very difficult thing, when you're so competitive. And I think it's a goal I had. It's a dream I had my whole life.
We were talking about UMass Lowell, how you had to turn down that opportunity because of the ACL injury.
Yeah.
And now you're recovering from the ACL injury.
And really quickly, so yeah, I'm recovering from the injury, but also I had to make this decision, within myself. This was a decision with just me and myself. And I remember my dad being the person I looked up to a lot, and he was talking to me, and he's like, if you want to play soccer again, you have to go to the gym. You have to rehab your ACL. You can't be doing what your friends are doing. Do you want to sacrifice that? Are you willing? Do you want to have the weekends, where you're traveling? Do you want to sacrifice that? Your friends are after school, they're gonna be hanging out, you have to go train. Is that what you want? And I was like, I had to make that decision. I feel like at a young age, that's, something that is weighty, like heavy. And I decided, I was like, who do I want to be? I was 16. And I remember my junior year of high school, this is the year I'm coming back. And I'm like, I want to start eating a little bit better. I want to start going to the gym. I want to start, it actually trickled into eating better and taking better care of myself and having healthier habits, sleeping better, not partaking in what my friends were doing, like drinking, we tried all of that. Sad to say, as freshman, sophomore, I had to make these decisions. And I started to notice that I didn't want to gossip as much. I didn't want to talk about people. I could just tell that it was like self-development, I guess. I started to kind of get obsessed with this self-development mentality at a very young age. And I rehabbed my knee, and I think that started trickling into who I wanted to be. And I think that that's a decision maybe people don't make maybe until they're a little bit older or something. So I definitely think it worked to my advantage, but it absolutely sets you apart. And at a young age, I think that it can make other people, well, I guess I can get into college, but so now I'm at college, I walk onto the team, make the team, become best friends with everybody on the team, super close to my coach, came first in one of the running activities, I was one of the fastest on my team, so it was awesome. I was, the guys are like, who's Vanessa? I'm such a small school, and so I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, this is kind of what I was missing. I loved that feeling, I'll be honest.
You sort of picked up where you left off
yeah.
after your high school years.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's a fear of that in a way when you're in high school, transitioning to college, am I going to be known? No one knows me. If your worth is in that, it's a pretty big, no one talks about it maybe, but it's something you think subconsciously, you go from a small town to let's just say you go to Yukon and whatever, Connecticut, you go to a huge school. Now you're just where do I fit in? You have a fear of, I don't have friends. Yeah. Am I going to fit? So all those things were going through my mind. So it was like a weight lifted off when I'd found my people. I started playing with them. It was fun. I'm starting, people are noticing me, who's number 19, I'm scoring some goals, it's fun, it's nice, it's what everyone, you go, out on the weekends. But I do remember thinking to this almost this voice behind me, that I didn't realize then, but I realize now, but it was this voice behind me that was kind of who do you want to be? Do you want to do this? I'm not a natural drinker, I really wasn't, I was never a huge partier, but still, you could get caught up in that. You're doing it all the time. People are around you. You could get caught up in going with the crowd. And I had to be who do you want to be? What do you want to stand for? Is this what you want your identity to wrap around? And I just would make that cautious. So I would go with people, but I would choose to myself, or I'm not going to drink tonight, or I'm going to have one or two, or, I made a decision within myself, I'm not going to sleep with people. I'm not going to do that in college. I just chose to myself. I didn't know God then. I just, I have a past in high school, but I chose in college, I don't want to do this. And so it does set you apart amongst your peers. And I only say that to say because, so now we're into my sophomore year, and there's my best friend who I'm living with. One day I'm at a party, I'm downstairs at this party of a formal, and this other girl, former teammate, comes up to me and she's like, hey, oh my gosh, this house is so pretty, which room is yours? And I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean which room is mine? And she was like, well, all your friends put a down payment on this house, which room is yours?
The friends from the soccer team.
Yes. So my friends from my soccer team decided to get a house without me. And I was just, so many emotions were going through me. I truly was just broken and sad, and I didn't know, I started to self-destruct. I didn't know why this happened. I was like, what do you mean they got a house without me? But why? And I guess the hardest part was because I was living with them and I didn't know, and I just felt slightly naive. Now my trust was broken.
They were the same age group, or older, younger?
Same exact age group.
Yeah.
There's you have your classes when you're in playing soccer, especially. And then and I commuted my first year. So I commuted my first year, started to hang out with them we became really close, best friends, hanging out every day. So they like lived with us our second year. So we lived together our second year. And, these are the people you're with every day. You're like, I find the people who are going to be in my wedding. Like I find the people, people I know from now on are still best friends from people in college. It's just like usually typically how it goes. But for me, it just went opposite. And I'm like, of course it went opposite for me. I'm like, if it was ever just normal, it wouldn't be my life. But, I'm like, I tear my, and I know it's not the end of the world. Like, I know there's, like, things going on that are probably bigger than this. But for me, at that age, it was such a big deal. Like, it was just like, like I said to you, I described that pain like I'd broken up with 6 boyfriends. Because I had not known what it's like to be, I had never had a serious relationship. I did have a relationship, slightly situationship they call it nowadays, in high school. Like I wanted to date this kid, he didn't want to date me and left me broken, and that was a huge part of who I am too. But I didn't know what it was like to be like truly in love and have that be broken from you. So yeah, it was really hard. I mean, I tried so hard. This is where I was like, I want to be bitter. I want to be, I don't know how to not be angry at this. Like what even is forgiveness? Like I would say, I remember the first time that this happened, I went and spoke with the girl itself, like one of my friends at the time, and I was like, I literally forgive you. Like I remember saying that. I was like, but like in my heart, it like wasn't changing. You could tell that like I wanted to forgive her and them, but I didn't know how to face them and like truly forgive. So now I decide, I try to live with them the best I can. I'm just it's awful. Every day I am like, so I have anxiety. This is where anxiety comes into my life. I'm depressed. I can't break, like now it's like you go every day talking and you don't talk anymore. So, I mean, it was so. And
you're still training with
and I'm
the same
still
folks.
training with them. I think no, I'll be honest. I said to myself before I came here, I'm going to be just honest with people. Like, I think the hardest part was at the
Cypress wants to be on camera.
Sorry, hi. But do you mind if he's in it?
It's fine.
Okay. I think the hardest part at the time of where I was watching the people who betrayed me get glorified at soccer practice. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really hard. And I was, people being like, they're so awesome. And I also love these people to this day. Like, we could still talk. There's much forgiveness there. But back then, I've never really talked about it. But like I hated, truly back then, I hated watching people like talk good about them when I knew like what they'd done to me, right? Mm-hmm. But that's why forgiveness is so important. We don't know why people do things. We also don't know why things always happen to us. So I just think had I maybe had a different perspective, but that's where I was at the time.
If you had a different perspective? Yes,
if I had a different perspective, then I would have maybe, I would have been different, but this was kind of where I was at the time. And I ended up deciding to move back home because I thought that was a better option, but I was very bitter and resentful.
What year was this?
This was 2017, I believe. No. Was it? What's college? 2018? 2019, I'm sorry. I was like 19. Yeah, I graduated in 2018. So I moved back my junior year of college back home to live home.
2018.
2018-ish, yeah.
Okay.
2000, yeah. So I moved back home with my parents, and like, this is great. I love this. Super fun. I'm broken, and I'm just like, people coming into my house, I'm like, I need to move out. But, it was hard. Every day I woke up, I would cry to my mom. I'll be honest. I'm a very emotional person, so I feel things really hard. Like, I just like pour my heart out on everything. And that's like one thing I used to kind of dislike about myself, which actually is my greatest gift now. I just really care deeply, and I hurt really hard, and I love really hard. So it's like little things like almost where I've had to become stronger with thicker skin, not so sensitive. They would bug me, they would bother me. I would just be so, so loving and then like so loving and so mad. Like, just like my emotions are very strong, I guess. And I just remember trying to navigate through this hard time, and my mom and I just having conversations every day. I really feel like my mom and I got close at this. I mean, we've always been close, but when, like, her seeing me now, it touches her. Like, she always cries because she saw the most vulnerable, saddest, scariest, and depressed side of that a mother could ever see of their child. Like, no one wants to see their child hurt. I mean, it makes my mom sad and just as mad, if not madder, because they hurt me and she has no control over it.
Yeah.
You know, anyone would feel that way. So, I mean, she had to learn the art of forgiveness too. So anyways, this was a big challenging time for me and my family because it affected not just me, but it affected them. But it was also the biggest blessing of our whole life because things happen for a reason. And I fully believe if this situation didn't happen to me, I literally wouldn't be who I am today. So I only share all this because I'm over it and it's in the past and it's like made me literally who I am. It's made me stronger.
So let's back up a little bit. So you get through, if I can summarize, you get through your high school years, and you're sort of known as this, if I can say, popular kind of person at this point. You're used to everyone coming to you, being at the center.
Yeah.
And so when you get this news that, hey, you're no longer going to be able to go to this D1 school that you were seeking for quite some time for, working hard for, you get better. You get hooked up with a new college in this area, Western Massachusetts.
Yeah.
At which point you still kind of get that attention you were used to a point, and then your friends that you make on the team betray you. So it's the first real time, first time in your life you felt a real sense of betrayal.
Yeah, that was the first. Yes, absolutely.
From a group of when you're part of a team sport, those players become your brothers or your sisters.
It's a sisterhood. It's a brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
I also feel like in high school as well, because I was in these classes, I had friends, some friends who would sometimes just point out to me that my GPA was like a certain, a 2.0 or whatever it was, like it was low. And so I kind of was used to having friends. Some of them I'm still friends with to today, but some of them would point out my flaws and point out those negative sides of me that I kind of got used to. So finding these friends in college I love friendship. Like I'm such a person of friendship. And finding these friends was such a big deal to me. Like it's a brotherhood, it's a sisterhood. And I wanted that so bad, that inclusion. Like who doesn't want to be included? Yeah. And it wasn't just that I was, friends with them. I was really close to my coach, which I don't know what it was about like wanting to, I feel like every person can relate on a team. They just want the in, and I had the in. Like I will say that I don't even know. I didn't do anything to have the in, but at that point I did. But I also know what it's like to not have the in, which is kind of where I ended up going with all of this. I end up going home, and my grandma, who I'm really close with on my dad's side, my nanny, which a lot of my friends know in social media because they love her, but she asked me one day, she was like, do you want to come to church with me? And I literally remember flat out, I was like, no, not really. I was like, I'm sorry, no, I'm good. Like, I was like, that's weird. Like, why would I go to church? I don't know. I just was, so I should preface, like, I grew up loving God, knowing God, Catholic. I grew up in a Catholic home. My parents had my first communion, had the cross, did all that stuff. I had like a stuffed animal, angel, bear,
Yeah.
But there was no real, relationship with God. I guess I did have, a secret relationship. I remember I would pray here and there, right? But I'd go to school, and there was nothing that set me apart any different from any other person. I was acting the exact same way as anybody else would act, right?
Yeah.
And it just came to the point where I kind of put my faith on the back burner. Like, I was just like, yeah, I love God. I'm a good person. And, I go to church on Easter and Christmas, and, that's about it. And I just remember her bringing that back up to me, and it kind of did strike a little bit in my heart, a little something faith is good. I'm it's something I could maybe try. But at first I was just kind of that's not, I was the popular girl. I love makeup and fashion. That doesn't go. I was so naive. I didn't know. I was like, well, I guess you don't think of it really as with church. I'm like, that doesn't really go. No, I'm good. And she's like, okay, girl, okay. She has an accent. She's like, whatever, girl. I'm like, okay. She's praying for me. Meanwhile, thank God for her, because I know that prayer is so powerful. And I knew I had family members praying for me, and just protecting me. And so long story short, I'm just like down bad, right? And I think it's funny how, not funny, but God does sometimes really have to get you to be in your lowest, most vulnerable point, because the only way you can look is up.
Hey everyone, don't forget to subscribe, like, share.